For EVA-2, both crew members will again start out at the U.S. joint airlock. They'll have their bags pre-staged on EVA-1, and they'll get right to work. As I mentioned, the primary task here is to install ammonia jumpers that are routed from the lab to Node 3. These jumpers will provide cooling to Node 3. However, for thermal protection, they need to route a thermal blanket around these jumpers. So their first task will be to install that thermal blanket. You'll see that show up here. It looks like a large Y-shaped blanket. Their next task will be to route the 4 ammonia jumpers that route from the lab to Node 3. As I mentioned, these jumpers will provide cooling. Here you can see Bob routing one end to Nick. Nick will connect his end at the U.S. lab. Bob will connect his end using a fluid quick disconnect on Node 3. Once that's complete, they'll close the thermal blanket around all 4 lines and then head out to Node 3 for some Node 3 outfitting. Bob's first task will be to install a keel pin cover. The keel pin is a structural attach point that holds Node 3 into the shuttle payload bay. He'll be putting a thermal cover on it to prevent condensation from building up inside of Node 3. He'll then translate to the nadir common berthing mechanism on Node 3, where he'll open up a flap that will allow camera views of the cupola when it's being berthed to this port. He'll also open up a series of 4 pedal covers. These covers protect the sealing surface on this port. From there, Bob will continue installing thermal blankets. There'll be a total of 4 thermal blankets covering trunnions. These trunnions are used to secure Node 3 into the payload bay for launch. Again, the need for these covers is to prevent condensation from building up in the module. So there's 2 on the aft side and 2 on the forward side. These covers are going to be secured using Velcro and what we call quarter-turn fasteners. So the quarter-turn fasteners are a special bolt that will provide a grounding path in case any charge is built up in the thermal cover. While Bob is doing this, Nick is going to be installing a series of handrails. These EVA handrails could not be launched in place because they interfered with structure in the orbiter payload bay. He has a total of 8 handrails that he'll install. Once he gets these handrails installed, it'll create a nice path to his next work site. Here he will be installing a non-propulsive vent. This vent will be used to depressurize cupola before it is relocated to its final home on the nadir side of Node 3. The acronym for the non-propulsive vent is NPV. It's also been dubbed the Nick Patrick valve because he has installed this so many times in training. From there, the final task of EVA-2 will be to install a gap spanner. This is a translational aid that helps the crew translate around the ammonia jumpers that they just installed. This is also the same tool that they've been using to hold the ammonia jumpers and thermal blanket in place. That completes EVA-2. Bob and Nick will clean up their work sites and head back into the joint airlock. They'll have 2 days before their 3rd and final EVA.